Have you ever wondered why some people seem to be born under a shadow when it comes to money? No matter how hard they work, opportunities slip away, debts return, and an invisible weight seems to follow them through every attempt at prosperity. Edgar Cayce, often called the sleeping prophet, believed that what we call financial misfortune might not always belong to this lifetime. He suggested that our relationship with abundance, or lack thereof, could be the echo of choices, attachments, and fears carried over from other incarnations. But what does it really mean to inherit a financial curse from the past? And more importantly, can it be broken? Cayce taught that every soul carries unfinished lessons from one life to the next, as naturally as a river carries the memory of every stone it has touched. He said that money, in particular, is not just a material tool. It's a mirror reflecting our inner sense of value, our beliefs about worth, giving, and trust. When someone lives life after life believing that wealth corrupts, or that abundance must be earned through suffering, those convictions take root deep in the soul's subconscious soil, and like roots, they continue to shape what grows above, even when the tree itself has changed form. Imagine for a moment that your soul is a vast field, and every experience, every act of giving or withholding, plants a seed within it. In one life you may have taken more than you gave. In another, you may have sacrificed everything out of guilt or duty, believing that poverty was the price of virtue. Over time, these seeds become a pattern, a recurring story that repeats itself under different skies, in different names, yet with the same emotional resonance. Cayce believed that financial struggles often emerge when those old seeds begin to sprout again, urging the soul to balance what was once distorted. But here lies the secret that few truly understand. There are no curses in the universe as we imagine them. There are only lessons, persistent invitations from the soul to awaken. What feels like a curse is often a contract we signed unconsciously, a promise made long ago under the illusion of separation. Perhaps in another life, we vowed never to seek wealth again after seeing it cause harm. Or we swore to repay what we believed we had taken unjustly. The energy of those vows doesn't disappear. It waits patiently, carried in the vibration of the soul, until awareness dissolves the illusion and forgiveness reclaims the light that was trapped in guilt. Cayce's readings revealed something profound. No karma is punishment. It is simply the soul's way of restoring balance. When a person asked him how to undo a karmic limitation around money, he didn't prescribe rituals or prayers for wealth. Instead, he directed them inward, towards service, generosity, and gratitude. Because to break the energetic chain, one must reverse its motion. If greed created scarcity, then selfless giving unlocks abundance. If fear of loss built walls, then trust tears them down. The soul heals not by fighting its past, but by transcending its pattern through conscious love in the present moment. Think of it like music. Every life is a melody composed from the notes of past experiences. Some notes are dissonant, clashing and unresolved. Others are harmonious and clear. When Cayce spoke of breaking curses, he meant tuning the instrument of the soul so that the melody can finally find its harmony again. And the tuning fork, he said, is love. Not sentimental love, but the deep vibration of unity that reminds us we were never separate from the source of all provision. When that vibration resonates within us, the illusion of lack dissolves like mist before the morning sun. So perhaps the real secret to breaking a financial curse from a past life is not about chasing money or repelling it, but about remembering who we are beneath the stories of loss and guilt. Cayce urged every soul to see money as an opportunity for consciousness, a means of expressing divine flow. When we use it with wisdom, share it without fear, and receive it without shame, the karmic knots loosen. What once felt like a burden becomes a bridge. The soul, freed from its old promises, begins to dance again in the rhythm of creation, where abundance is not something to be earned or inherited, but remembered. And that remembering begins not in the outer world, but in the quiet recognition that everything we call money is, at its essence, energy in motion. It is consciousness taking form, a current that flows where belief allows it to go. Cayce compared this to the circulation of blood in the human body. When the flow is open and healthy, every part receives what it needs. But when fear, resentment, or guilt constrict the channels, stagnation appears. In that stillness, we feel poor, not because we lack resources, but because our inner current has forgotten how to move. Healing, therefore, begins not in the wallet, but in the heart, where the first pulse of giving and receiving is born. Cayce often said that the universe is perfectly balanced in law, but infinitely compassionate in love. So, when we carry unresolved patterns from other lives, life itself will recreate the exact circumstances needed to restore that balance. If someone once misused wealth for selfish gain, they might now be born into lack, not as punishment, but as a living lesson in empathy. And if another once rejected material comfort out of spiritual pride, they may find themselves struggling financially until they learn that abundance and humility are not enemies but allies. In this way, karma is less a debt to be paid and more a wisdom to be integrated. The universe teaching us how to walk evenly on both feet, spirit and matter. Imagine a farmer who plants the same crop year after year, wondering why the soil yields less each season. He blames fate, the weather, the world, but the soil is simply asking for renewal, for rotation, rest, and balance. The same is true for the soil of our consciousness. When we repeat the same beliefs about money, I'll never have enough, I'm not worthy, money is evil, we exhaust our inner ground. We keep planting scarcity and hoping for abundance. Cayce would gently remind us, the harvest will always match the seed. To change the outcome, we must change the inner story we tell ourselves about what wealth means. One of Cayce's most remarkable insights was that true prosperity is not measured by possessions but by flow. He said, the soul prospers when it gives, and the material follows. Many who sought his guidance wanted quick solutions, affirmations, lucky numbers, or business advice. But Cayce redirected their attention towards service. He would say, what are you giving to life, to others, to your purpose? Because the law of compensation ensures that what we contribute returns, multiplied. When we withhold our gifts, our creativity, our kindness, our gratitude, the flow constricts, and the reflection in our finances mirrors that contraction. Generosity, then, is not just moral virtue, it is energetic hygiene. But how does one begin to rewrite the soul's financial script? Cayce advised something deceptively simple, yet profoundly transformative. Start by blessing what you already have. Gratitude, he said, magnetizes more of what is acknowledged. When we give thanks, not performatively but sincerely, we align with the vibration of sufficiency. From that vibration, opportunities appear naturally, as if the universe had been waiting for permission to deliver them. The energy of thank you is a key that unlocks the locked gates of old karma. For in gratitude, we stop resisting what is and begin participating in what could be. Still, gratitude alone is not enough if it remains an intellectual exercise. It must be felt, lived, embodied in small, consistent acts. Cayce would often recommend that people give something, a coin, a meal, a kind word, not to erase guilt, but to restore the soul's memory of flow. Every act of giving, he said, is a declaration of freedom from fear. When you release even a little of what you cling to, you tell the universe, I trust, and trust, like oxygen, allows the current to move again. You don't need to fix your financial karma overnight. You only need to open one valve of love at a time, and the river will find its own way. Ultimately, what Cayce called the breaking of curses was nothing mystical at all. It was awakening. It was remembering that you are not a victim of fate but a participant in divine order. The moment you understand that every pattern in your life is an invitation to greater awareness, the curse transforms into a teacher. You begin to see that every unpaid bill, every closed door, every delay was never punishment. It was preparation. The soul was waiting for you to stop chasing wealth as an object and start embodying abundance as a state of being. Because when the soul remembers this truth, even the heaviest chains of the past begin to turn into golden threads, weaving a future made not of fear, but of trust. And it is in that trust that the next secret begins to unfold. The revelation that abundance is not something we acquire from the world, but something we awaken within the very essence of who we are. For abundance, Cayce taught, is not a matter of accumulation, but of alignment. It is not the weight of gold that proves one's prosperity, but the lightness of heart with which one lives. He often said that the universe is constantly pouring forth its riches, not only in the form of money, but in opportunities, love, beauty, and learning. Yet most of us live with our hands clenched so tightly around what little we think we have that we cannot receive the gifts waiting to enter. The great paradox is that abundance cannot reach a heart that is armored in fear. To open ourselves to it, we must first learn the art of letting go. Letting go is not indifference, it is trust in divine timing. Cayce warned that many souls repeat their patterns of lack because they try to control the flow of life instead of aligning with it. They confuse effort with faith, forcing outcomes rather than attuning to the current of intuition that always knows the right direction. Do not seek to force prosperity, he once said, but become the channel through which it naturally flows. To become that channel, one must dissolve the belief that worthiness must be earned. Life doesn't reward the most deserving, it responds to the most open. And openness comes from surrender, not the surrender of defeat, but the surrender of resistance. Picture a stream that has been blocked by fallen branches. The water behind it grows stagnant, breeding frustration and decay. Yet if you simply clear the debris, the doubts, the fears, the guilt, the stream resumes its flow effortlessly. This is how financial healing occurs on a spiritual level. We don't attract wealth, we remove what repels it. We don't manifest abundance, we remember that it was always trying to reach us. And when that remembrance deepens, something extraordinary happens. The energy that once expressed itself as scarcity begins to transmute into creativity. Ideas flow, inspiration grows, and what was once a desert becomes fertile again. Cayce believed that the truest wealth a soul can possess is creative energy, the capacity to bring something good into existence. Money, when aligned with this creative current, becomes sacred because it extends love into form. The artist who paints, the teacher who uplifts, the healer who gives, all are vessels through which divine abundance takes tangible shape. But when money becomes separated from purpose, it loses its sacredness and turns into burden. That is why so many who achieve financial success still feel empty. They have gained wealth but lost flow. They have abundance without meaning. Cayce's wisdom reminds us that prosperity divorced from purpose will always echo with the hollow sound of longing. To reconnect with purpose, he encouraged self-inquiry. For what reason do I seek abundance? If the answer is fear, fear of lack, fear of judgment, fear of insignificance, then the energy will always carry tension. But if the answer is love, love for creation, for contribution, for the betterment of others, then abundance will unfold naturally, for it now has a spiritual reason to exist. Cayce's vision of financial healing was therefore inseparable from spiritual awakening. To break a curse was to remember that you are a co-creator with the divine, not a prisoner of circumstance. Every act of honest work, every thought of gratitude, every intention of service becomes a prayer that reshapes the soul's old patterns into harmony. And harmony, once restored, begins to ripple outward. When you change your inner relationship with abundance, you unconsciously give others permission to do the same. Your peace becomes contagious. A person at peace with money radiates calm around the subject, no longer feeding the collective fear of scarcity. Cayce understood this ripple effect deeply. He believed that each awakened individual contributes to the healing of the entire human family. The so-called curse is not only personal, it is generational, cultural, collective. To heal it in oneself is to heal it for countless others who share the same unconscious belief in limitation. In this way, breaking financial karma is an act of sacred rebellion, a quiet revolution of the soul that says, I will no longer carry forward the illusions of fear and guilt. I will remember abundance as my natural state. And with that remembrance, life begins to change in subtle but profound ways. The synchronicities multiply, the right people appear. Opportunities arise not through struggle, but through resonance. It is as though the universe finally recognizes your signature again and rushes to meet you halfway. Yet even then, Cayce would remind us, this is not the end of the journey, but the beginning of a new rhythm, one where giving and receiving become the same breath, the same sacred motion of existence. And in that sacred motion, the soul remembers what Cayce had always known, that abundance is not a privilege to be earned, but a birthright to be remembered. The universe, he said, is constantly whispering to us through the language of experience, asking only that we trust its rhythm. When we finally stop chasing wealth as something outside ourselves and begin to feel its pulse within, the so-called curse dissolves into pure clarity. We see that every obstacle was a disguised invitation to awaken, every delay a form of protection, every limitation a teacher disguised as lack. Life had never been against us. It had always been waiting for us to align. Cayce's legacy, though often associated with prophecy, was never about predicting events. It was about unveiling the unseen patterns shaping them. He wanted humanity to understand that the soul is not a victim of its past, but the author of its evolution. And if the past wrote chapters of scarcity and fear, we now have the divine pen to write differently. The ink of that pen is consciousness. Each thought of love, each act of generosity, each moment of trust becomes a stroke of new creation upon the fabric of destiny. That is how curses end, not with rituals or incantations, but with awareness luminous enough to rewrite reality itself. To those who feel trapped by financial struggle, Cayce's message is not one of escape, but of remembrance. You are not poor, you are potent. Beneath the illusions of lack lies an infinite reservoir of creative power, the same power that spins galaxies, that makes a seed split open to become a tree. Your financial story is not a verdict, it is a mirror reflecting what you believe possible. And beliefs can change. When you begin to act as if you are already connected to the source of all good, the universe rearranges itself to match that vibration. The old karmic energies, like shadows in the morning, vanish in the light of this realization. There is perhaps a deeper beauty in Cayce's secret, one that transcends money altogether. For what he truly offered was a map back to the self. Every struggle with wealth, every fear of loss, every craving for more was a symbol pointing to the same question. Do you remember who you are? When you answer that question not with intellect but with presence, abundance ceases to be a pursuit and becomes a natural expression of your being. Prosperity is not a goal, it is the echo of inner harmony. When the soul vibrates in tune with the divine order, all things flow to it effortlessly, because it has become one with the source that gives all things. So, the act of breaking a financial curse is not about banishing an external force. It is about embracing the forgotten aspects of yourself that once believed in limitation. It is about meeting the frightened parts of the soul with compassion, whispering to them, "You are safe now. You are free to receive." The moment you stop identifying with the story of struggle, the story loses its power. The moment you stop fighting the darkness and start shining your own light, the darkness has nothing left to hold on to. Cayce's wisdom was always rooted in this simple truth. We heal not by doing more, but by remembering more, remembering the divine order that has never ceased to include us. And from this remembrance, practical transformation naturally follows. Decisions become clearer, generosity becomes effortless, opportunities multiply, and money becomes what it was always meant to be, a symbol of flow, not a measure of worth. The soul that once carried guilt for having too much or too little now walks with serenity, knowing that true wealth is simply the freedom to give and to love without fear. When we operate from that consciousness, we participate in healing not only our personal karma, but the collective story of humanity's relationship with abundance. For every soul that remembers its wholeness becomes a living blessing to all. Perhaps that is the true secret Edgar Cayce wanted us to discover, that abundance is not something you attract, it is something you remember. When you stand in gratitude, serve with love, and trust the timing of your own unfolding, the invisible debts of lifetimes dissolve into light. The river of your soul, once clogged with fear, runs clear again, carrying you effortlessly toward new shores of peace. And there, in the silence after striving ends, you realize that what you called a curse was never a punishment at all, only a passage, guiding you back to the truth that abundance was never lost. It was simply waiting for you to awaken. So if these words found you today, perhaps it's because your soul is ready to remember. Take a moment, breathe deeply, and ask yourself not how to earn abundance, but how to embody it. Begin with gratitude, act with generosity, live with trust. And as you do, you'll see that the energy once called a curse becomes your teacher, your mirror, your liberation. If this reflection touched something within you, share it below. Let us keep awakening together. And if you wish to continue this journey of light, subscribe and stay close. There is much more the soul longs to remember, and this is only the beginning.